Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. Today I'm delighted to welcome Theo Botha, who's the Global Head of Cybersecurity at Dr. Martens. Theo, welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks. Thanks to be
How you been?
to be part of this.
Well? You well? You good?
Yeah, doing really well. Yeah, really doing well. Massively busy and running at the speed of light, but enjoying it.
It's a good challenge to have, right? So for those people that don't know you, would you like to give us a quick insight into your background and how you've got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I spent a couple of years in physical security space, as you do as a student when making your way through college and university. And then I sort of fell into technology and spent about 10, 15 years in that space. And out of that 15 years, 10 years was in security. And through technology, just put my hands up to various projects, risk assessments. Yeah, I'll do that. Anything security-wise, yeah, I'll do that. And sort of just fell in love with that space, and certainly found a vocation in security. Having a technical background helped, and yeah, transitioned into cybersecurity quite quickly. And the last sort of 10 years has flown past.
And you haven't looked back since. I think that's quite a good. I've recently seen a link now between companies or people looking to step out of physical into cybersecurity. I mean, you look at some SOCs, for example, some are physical, some are cyber, and some are both. I think that's definitely the direction the industry could be going in the coming months. So, what's your role at Dr. Martens now?
So, I'm global head for cybersecurity. So it's a new service to Dr. Martens. Security was sort of scattered around various technology teams and auditing compliance teams. So it's bringing that security into a specific service as a governance piece against technology, people, and processes. Then also building the team. So building a team from scratch. And the focus being operational security, GRC, as you would do, and then solutionizing security within our architecture space. So that's the sort of initial startup of the service, and just operationally trying to get my arms around everything and how the organization operates and work from a technology perspective, but also operational.
Okay, I know that's, given your career history, that's not stuff or challenges that's new to yourself, but I know you started around coming up to about 6 months ago. I know, correct me if I'm wrong. So that was right at the start of this global pandemic that's going on. Retail sector's been hit quite massively. What was that like for you, starting in that role? Now you've got this big challenge of creating a team, implementing a security function, essentially. What's that been like?
It's certainly a strange start to any organization. I think I was a week and a half into the role, working in our UK head office when COVID, the wrecking ball came through and everything changes. So what I had in my head and documented with regards to what a security strategy would look like, had to change very quickly. So we went to a more tactical approach, and that the focus being bringing security to the end user. And we've always said for many years, perimeter starts at the end user, and COVID just sort of highlighted that. So bringing security to the home network. So the focus changed drastically with regards to identity management, endpoint protection, and vulnerability management around end user devices. So it was quite a strange start, and obviously being, Dr. Martens is more a consumer brand rather than just retail, and so they're a very strong brand and digital channel, which I think certainly helped the organization to just strive through COVID. But from a retail perspective, what I've learned a lot is just the link between supply chain, distribution centers, the teams on the ground working really hard, opening up new retail units, closing them, opening up again, and just how that all links for me. The science behind retail and consumer and the human behavior is quite an interesting perspective, and I think you can link that to security, human behavior as well. So for me, certainly that was thrown into the deep end, and COVID certainly sort of helped to push me down into the water. But also, I think quickly learned operationally, the various Zoom calls and team calls. I actually got to meet a lot of people very quickly. So, in a way that worked out as well.
Okay, I think you touched on a good point there. The human factor, again, that's touching on the physical side as well, especially opening up new shops and things like that. I think human factor needs to be looked into a lot more in the coming months, and especially as we come out of this pandemic now. How are people? Not only did we have this whole issue of getting people to work remotely and making them secure, but now people are going to start coming back into the office or the place of work. So things are going to be completely different. So I think people need to kind of still kind of be educated and taken into consideration. So that all sounds great. It sounds fantastic. Some good experiences to get, I'm sure. What do you think is missing in the industry right now? Is there a certain area that you think that the industry on a whole could improve on?
I think the ability to navigate and transferable skills from other industries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, under COVID, unfortunately, we've had certain industries hit really hard. The airline industry being one, and sort of the mechanism to try and harness those skills and bring that into a cybersecurity space. Those individuals have to reskill quite often to do their jobs. They need to make decisions, quick decisions on a very stressful situation. So perhaps that could be a SOC manager or security analyst. Attention to detail. So could they be doing risk assessments, audits, as an example? So I do think there's quite a lot that's already happened within cybersecurity space, trying to harness certain industries, military being one, physical security being one. How do you transfer it to cybersecurity? Just to bridge this gap of, the recruitment challenge we have with building our teams. So I think there's still other industries that's missing, and I'm hoping, under COVID that these industries are sort of seen and, individuals given a chance to make that transition.
I think that's a really good point. So we see a lot of work with kind of veterans coming out of the forces, things like that, to help them kind of get involved in security. So I think from a recruitment perspective, when I speak with clients, it's all about how do we decrease risk. And obviously security is about risk, right? So I tend to think sometimes clients think, right, I want to reduce my risk. Some clients are not entirely sure what they're looking for. So for them to bring someone in who doesn't have that kind of commercial experience, whether they're coming out of the police, the forces, or even, like you say, an airline pilot, for example, they might think that's an increased area of risk for them. So I do definitely think there needs to be done in terms of creating that bridge, whether that kind of be workplace apprenticeship schemes or work experience, things like that. I definitely think there's scope for that, which brings me on to graduates coming into the industry. We get a lot of grads kind of reaching out to us, and I'm sure you do also. What would be your advice to a graduate looking to kind of get into security operations?
Well, I think they've done the first step. They've gone through the graduate schemes. So I think that's awesome already. I think understand the area within security that you want to operate in, and there's so many areas. So do your reading on white papers, even if it's just what's the top 10 certifications in cybersecurity. And I'm not saying certifications is the be all and end all, but just read what you're going to learn within those modules, and therefore get an understanding of, are you going to go into management? Are you going to stay technical? Are you going to focus on risk and governance and compliance? What is it that interests you? And what I did is also, read the job descriptions out there. Now, that could be also a bit of a trap, because job descriptions normally want someone that has everything, and that's just impossible. But at least it gives you an idea of what that role looks like, and therefore is that a space that I want to operate in. So I think first thing is just apply. We know there's a skills gap. We know there's a recruitment challenge. Just apply, because I think when I look at CVs coming through, certifications is great, but it's also the commitment to the industry. So what online white papers are they signing up to? Where is their self-development? Even if it's someone just putting a line in the CV saying, I'm working on my CISP, or I'm working on my CISM, or any sort of certification. You don't have to have it. That just shows to me commitment to the industry. So I would say understand where you want to go within industry. There's a lot of free resources out there. Make use of them. And certainly if you just leaving school, certainly going to data analytics, going to cybersecurity, have a look at those courses. But the last thing is just apply. Throw your CV out there. Someone will pick it up, and the doors will open.
some really good advice. I think, especially mentioning certifications that you're studying towards is really good. But don't put them on there if you're not actually studying towards them, because you will get asked and then you get calls out.
Of course.
But I think the job specs as well, you briefly touched on that. There's been a lot of conversation around these wish lists, people looking for unicorns. So if I was a grad and I was looking to get into security, I would look at the job descriptions and think, right, okay, I wouldn't sit there and think, oh gosh, they're asking for 5 years experience in this. I can't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would sit there and think, right, what are they asking for experience in? I need to go away and break down this job description and try and learn as much as I can off my own back about that technology or that certification and things like that, because there's just so much competition on there. But I think job specs and the white paper, what you say, is some really good advice there. So I guess on a closing note, I've got a final question for you, Theo. If you weren't in cybersecurity, if you weren't the global head of security, what would you be doing? You can't say physical security.
No. I think I'll probably be either engineering or medical. That was something I actually wanted to do. Believe it or not, being a dentist.
Okay.
When I left school, I was ready to start that path back, where I grew up. But then decided to pack my backpack and flew over to the UK for the weather, and then stayed. I think probably something engineering. That's probably how my brain works. But potentially, medical as well.
That's good to hear it. So some great points that were raised today around the kind of advice to graduates, what's missing in the industry. It's been really good to kind of get an insight into Dr. Martens and your role there. So hopefully it's on the way up. It's not going to continuously stay ridiculously busy for you all. But I really appreciate your time, and thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for your time.